All right, what's up, 42 strong challengers? We are getting to the end of our second true week of the challenge. I know we had to hit that reset button earlier, so that's kind of where we wanted to start with this challenge because, Andy, would you say this has probably been one of the more unique starts of a challenge that we've had so far?
Definitely the most unique challenge that we've had so far. I don't think we've ever had a, am I recording? Definitely the most unique challenge that we've ever had. I don't think we've ever had an ice storm at all. And I mean, that's probably the first ice storm I've had since I've lived here in 20 years.
I can't remember. I've lived here minus a couple years pretty much my entire life.
Yeah.
I've seen snow, but I've not seen ice
Right.
shut the city down for that many days before.
Yeah, so that was unique, and I think there's a gift in that, right? Because you're met with some adversity right front,
off the bat.
and you have to confront that. And I think that's what a lot of people really struggle with challenges, is that when life is going good and everything's normal and there's no disruptions to the way they do things, they do pretty good. But when life throws them a curveball, that can be the very thing that sends you spiraling. So,
And I like that you say that because I have some of our favorite quotes of the book so far pulled up from the Facebook group. And Christine Westcott, one of the ones she says, it's easy to be tough when you can handle the situation or you're prepared for the situation.
Yes.
The true test comes when you can't, when things pop up that are out of your control. So literally I just looked down. I was planning on talking about that later, but that just feeds in exactly to what that first week threw at us.
I don't like positioning, improving your nutrition and exercising more and sleeping better as adversity. But quite frankly, it is.
Just because of how out of the norm it is for most people. We just talk about the steps, drinking your water. I mean, that's very different. That's some of the things that people struggle with the most.
Yeah.
And that, to some people may seem like one of the easiest things to get, but at least from the feedback we've got from these first 2 weeks, I mean, it's been kind of the steps. And some of those things that some people would struggle with, oh yeah, that should be easy.
Well, I got thoughts on that later on. We'll kind of save it to the end when we talk about the struggles. I guess I kind of got it in my head as we in this thing. We'll talk about kind of the struggles that might be in front of people from weeks 3 through 6. But what I'll share will be relevant to the common struggles people are currently experiencing and the ones that they may find themselves struggling with to come.
And especially just with that first week, and now that we're finally getting a couple, 2 weeks back to back into the gym, I think a lot of people are starting to see and feel the reality of these challenges versus the expectations. At the orientation, we talk about it a lot. Everyone's motivated, everyone's excited, ready to jump in, but then you hit that day 1, day 2, week 1, week 2, and the reality of sticking to these habits. For a couple days, almost anybody can do that, but being able to stick with that for a couple weeks, I think people's expectations think that it's going to be a lot easier. Do you have anything specifically that you've heard or talked to anybody about?
Not that I've talked to anybody about particular, but I think in regards to that, aligning your expectations with the reality of things is really important. So you should go into this expecting it to be difficult. But there's this part of us that kind of wants to this won't be that hard. It won't be that hard. So no, you should position it in your mind that this will actually be very difficult for you to do. And that will pull you towards creating better solutions. If you assume it's going to be easy, you can kind of just stumble through this and make mistakes that you wouldn't otherwise if you put a little bit more thought into it. And one of the things that's really helpful for me is if I'm doing anything, that's going to require me to drive my brain in one specific direction. One of the easiest things that I've ever done that I think is really powerful is first thing when I wake up in the morning, I write down my intention for the day. So it's really easy to utilize that strategy in this challenge too. You wake up, it's okay, my intention today is to eat on the meal plan. I'm going to walk today for X amount of time or X amount of steps. I'm going to make sure that I drink my water today. In fact, I'm going to go drink, 32 ounces right now because I just woke up. I'm going to make sure that I read today. Literally just writing out your intention that you will do these 5 things. It's like a placeholder in your brain. And now you have to go the rest of the day ignoring that placeholder, or you have to do those things. And most of us are hardwired to not go against our word, even though it's a very common thing that people do. But I think it's a lot easier to go back on your word when you don't reclaim it every day. So every day, if you set your intentions towards what you're doing, you're also going to get much better outcomes. And we talked about implementation decisions in the very beginning. And this, again, is one of the most powerful things. So if people reflect on things they struggle with this week or something that they're having a realization was a little bit more difficult than they thought, like this is time to put pen to paper. You sit down and you ask yourself, when this, whatever it is, situation arises again, this is how I will do that to ensure that I get my steps in or I follow the meal plan or whatever they're struggling with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like the majority of everyone in this challenge is off to a really good start. But I mean, it's typically in these challenges at the first couple weeks that people are more locked in. It's usually on the back end of the challenge when people really start to feel the effects of life pulling them in separate directions. So like Andy said, I mean, like we said in the first podcast, like it comes down to kind of your planning. Like you got to think about this the night before. Like Andy said, touch on it again in the morning. Not that it's got to take you a full hour.
This will take you literally less than 5 minutes to do.
And it's going to give you that subconscious confidence feeling that, hey, I have a plan. I've put the attention on this. And like you said, you do it every single day. It becomes a habit like brushing your teeth. It just becomes a way of life.
It does. It does. You want to touch on the common struggles right now? We might be able to kind of reiterate some of the things we've talked about. Right. So like, Tate did a great job of kind of collecting some of the struggles from you guys this week. And the first one is steps. And, our best advice if you're struggling with the steps is to anchor it to something else. So we talked about, walking for 10 minutes after every single meal that you eat. If you do that, there's a very good chance you're going to hit 10,000 steps. But you have to make that a system in your life. Yeah. Again, it can't just be like, well, I might do it today, I might do it tomorrow. You need to set your intention to do it. And I think if you get in the habit of doing that, this is one of the things that is actually it's really helpful for me. After I eat a meal, I can almost always feel my body's energy kind of going down, and that's that parasympathetic shift that happens when your body's digesting food. Mm-hmm. So if you can walk, you can facilitate that process more, and you're able to keep your energy up because you're also spreading out your blood sugar a little bit better because you're active, and that requires energy from your body. So that's the easiest one for steps. I really think that's the best way to kind of operationalize this, but other things from a step standpoint that I think are really valuable is like, all right, when you park in the parking lot at work or if you're going to Walmart, stop looking for the closest place. Yeah. Park all the way at the back.
Park in the back,
right?
That's an easy extra.
Take elevators, not escalator, or take the stairs, not elevators or escalators. Yeah. Those are real easy cheat codes that help expand your level of activity. And remember, the nerd term for that is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Which is a big part of the total daily energy expenditure equation. Mm-hmm. The next one is so much food.
We get this at the beginning of pretty much every challenge, especially from, there's a good bit of people, not everybody, but there's a good bit of people in that first week or two. Every challenge is that there's no shot that I eat this much food. What's your first response to that?
Well, the first thing is this. I want you to start looking at food like as energy, all right? And the amount of calories that is in that food really determines the energy. Well, if you look at, say, 300 grams or 300 calories of, say, chicken and broccoli and maybe sweet potatoes, that looks like a whole lot of food to most people, okay? On the other hand, though, if I handed almost any person in this challenge one donut, they would inhale it in 2 seconds, right? That donut is also 300 calories. The way most people are used to getting their caloric intake is foods that are very easy to digest and that are highly processed. This leads to overeating often and a host of other issues because there's no work associated with eating. Yeah. They've even proven that people's teeth and their jaw structure has changed since we've had highly processed food. There's no work involved in a donut. Like you can literally just put it in your mouth and it melts and it's gone, right? But the chicken, the sweet potato, and the broccoli, that requires a little bit of work. Mm-hmm. So it's not that it's so much food, it's that you are used to eating food that is easy to digest, doesn't require a lot of work. Most people, if you were to look at their plate before this challenge, it's probably mostly carbohydrates, very little protein. Generally, carbohydrates are easier to digest as a whole than protein, but protein is more satiating. So now we've also added in this component of a good healthy serving of protein with every meal, And that's going to make you feel full longer too. But the good news is your digestive system will catch up. It is not so much food. It's just your body isn't used to having to digest and process food in this way. And if you stick to this, you will be amazed. At the end of this challenge, you'll probably be like, hey man, I need more food.
Yes. I can think of probably 3 or 4 right off the top of my head in previous challenges where we've heard them say that in the first week or two.
Yep.
And by week 3.5, week 4, they're just like, okay, I lied. This isn't enough food.
Right.
Now, you want to touch on like the good and that type of feeling? On like, okay, initially feels like way too much. All of a sudden, hey, my body's starting to adapt to this. Do you want to touch on what's going on with that? And
Yeah, I
why
mean,
some
the
of them
good
get
there
that
is that your
sensation?
digestive system is catching up. You're getting more efficient at breaking food down, extracting the nutrients, and actually being able to utilize them. You're also increasing your energy expenditure throughout this process. So as your digestive system gets more efficient and we start burning more and more calories, your hunger reflex will kick in. And what I would tell you, and this is a kind of a little mental hack for those of you here, is like when you feel that, I want you to understand you're okay. Like hunger is not an emergency 99% of the time. And if you can, and this is a little bit of a slippery slope here, so I would never recommend this to somebody that had, say, disordered eating or an eating disorder per se. But if you can frame this in your mind, is that feeling of hunger is my body recognizing it's in a deficit and I will be burning fat when I'm doing this. It's a good little mental frame to kind of get through that tough point. But your metabolism will change when you diet. And that's why it's important to stick to a diet the way it's planned, because then it helps you create a better strategy on the back end of the diet. And we'll talk about reverse diets and some of those things later on.
Yeah, dig it. Well, the next common struggle kind of goes with steps. And we kind of already touched on it with steps, with water intake. I think just most people aren't used to just drinking water throughout the day. And I think that's kind of the same way with steps. Like you got to create reminders, you got to keep water in front of you. And like I know we were talking to a few people the other day about like set an alarm on your phone. Because you either do it or you ignore it.
Put a sticky note on your water bottle. You know, this is, here you go, I'm going to solve your problem for you right now. What's Sean's name? This guy that wrote Smart Eating and Smart Sleep. Sean Stevenson, that's his name. I was talking to a guy that I know named Bedros, who is really good friends with Sean, and he said Sean gave him one tip that changed his life when it came to hydration, and it was start your day with 32 ounces of water, okay? So right now, if all of you start your day with 20 to 32 ounces of water, like you've almost got a third of your water intake done before you've even walked out the door. So why is this important? When we wake up in the morning, we're actually very dehydrated. So getting ourselves some fluids and water first thing in the morning, like literally, as soon as you hit stop on the alarm and before you go jump in the shower and get ready, walk in your kitchen, pour yourself a gigantic glass of water. Now here's another cheat code that you could add into this. In the morning is where your cortisol levels begin to rise. So at night, our melatonin rises to prepare us for sleep. In the morning, cortisol rises to prepare us to attack our day, all right? Well, most people, the first thing that they go for is what as soon as they wake up?
Cell phone.
Well, that too. And the funny thing is there's a little artificial cortisol you get from that too. But most people immediately, so you're just not 40, so that's why you don't know this answer. But anybody listening to this 40 and up, the first thing that they're looking for is probably the coffee machine or some caffeine, okay? Well, they have proven that as your cortisol levels begin to rise, you don't really need coffee in the morning. And it takes about 90 minutes for the adenosine to kick in, which is really what coffee and caffeine is playing on. It's actually not giving you energy, it's just shutting down your ability to feel tired, okay? So one of the major recommendations, if you want to have energy past 2 p.m. every day, this is when everybody kind of goes downhill, right, is postpone your morning coffee for 90 seconds. Now, caffeine does not enhance cortisol in that way if you have it before that 90-minute mark. But you want to know what does? Sodium. So with that 32 ounces of water, one packet of element in there, and you slam that, you will be hydrated and mineralized, and you'll kick off cortisol production before you ever need your coffee. So then you go get ready, go about your day, try to postpone coffee for 90 minutes or whatever caffeine of choice you like. This might suck for those of you that wake up at 4 a.m., but there are exceptions to all rules. It is what it is. But that would be my recommendation is, first of all, start the day with 32 ounces. Now, if you're eating 4 times a day, I want you to drink 10 ounces with every drink or with every meal. So if I drink 10 ounces of water with every meal and I have 32 ounces in the morning, I got to drink 1 8-ounce glass now to check the box for 90 days.
Yeah. Well, Andy just mapped it out for you.
Yeah,
that is one of the easiest ways right there to ensure that you're getting enough water, especially to increase the amount of water.
Yeah.
So I definitely highly recommend all y'all use that tactic.
Yep.
All right, the next common struggle, and this is especially common like on the back end of the challenge, is motivation. And I know we talked about that, the orientation, that motivation is fleeting, that you can't rely on motivation to get you through long periods of life. What you got on that?
Yeah, motivation doesn't show up, you create it. It's not, and you create it through momentum. And that's what we talk about is momentum is better than motivation. If you are not motivated right now, I would be willing to bet you if I checked your data, you're not as on point as you wish you were. And what happens is when our behaviors are not congruent with our deepest desires, which I would suggest if you join this challenge, you have a deep desire to change your body composition and your health as a whole. When those things aren't congruent, it chips away at us. It chips away at your energy, chips away at your self-esteem, chips away at your self-worth. Because, as soon as we're old enough to understand the concept, we know we're supposed to keep our word to ourselves and others. It's kind of an intuitive thing to a degree when it comes to yourself. But this is kind of part of a bigger issue, whereas when people don't align their behaviors with the outcomes that they want, they actually begin to train themselves to become unmotivated. Because if I'm unmotivated, that's a lot easier, and it's a very good rationale for me to not do the work. If I'm motivated, what's that imply? I have no reason not to do the work, right? But learning to do the work when you're not motivated, that's a major key to getting ahead in anything in life, but also changing anything. You are very habituated into the way you approach food, sleep, and exercise, and just your lifestyle as a whole. You have a lot of factors working against you when it comes to changing that. So if you're relying on motivation, it's akin to relying on hope. And what I tell people is like, hope is not a course of action. That is not a plan, right? Motivation is a feeling. Momentum is something you can create. The way you create that is by showing up and doing the boring work day in and day out. And the only part of your psychology that wants to run from that is the fact that I'm telling you what to do. Because I'm essentially removing your autonomy in this way. There will be an inner rebel in you that wants to fight back against this. So if you're listening to this, you're like, screw that guy. That's okay. My feelings aren't hurt. But I'd have you consider that if you start to align your behaviors with the outcome that you want, you'll pick up a little bit of momentum and you'll start to feel more motivated.
Yeah. And I think another thing, like we talked about it a little bit more on the beginning of the challenge, is like getting clear on why you're doing this challenge. Like what is the overall why behind this challenge? Because again, like there are different times of the year when I'm not motivated to work out, but like it is just who I am, and that's not everybody. So I think as you went into this challenge, hopefully you spent some of that time to really get clear on why you're doing this challenge, and like keep that, like some of the stuff that I want to keep front of I put on my mirror in my bathroom, like I want that consuming my face and being in front of mine. So keeping that kind of stuff front of mind, whether it be on a sheet of paper in front of you, on your mirror, or the calendar, 42-strong calendar. 42-strong calendar. Something daily and something that you can remember, hey, this is why I'm doing this. This is going to be hard. This is a challenge. This isn't just an easy little 6 week. This is a challenge.
I'll give you something. Some of you guys might have saw our planner that we use as a staff because Chris posted a picture of it. But at the top of one of the page, or every day, it says in one word, like summarize how you want to show up today. So that's another, outside of setting your intentions, it's like, how do you want to show up today? Do you want to be focused? Do you want to be like energetic? Do you want to be positive and benevolent towards your ability to do these things? Like claiming that is another thing that has value as well.
Yeah, do it. All right, well, before we get to the weeks to come, you want to touch on the in-body that we got coming up for everybody this week and everything?
Yeah, so week 3 is our in-body check-in. This is really important. I don't care how good you've been doing. I think you need to face the music. That is very, very, very important because facts matter more than feelings when it comes to change. And I know we're living in a world now where that seems to not be true. We're always worried about people's feelings. And I don't want anybody to think I'm not empathetic to not wanting to see your results. Like, I get it. But how do you know how to dial things in more if you don't have a benchmark, right? So one of my buddies explained the importance of benchmarks and goal setting to me like this. He was a big like Ironman triathlon guy, and but he had never done open water swimming. So he had done like a bunch of Ironmans, but he had never done like the big one in Hawaii, which I'm forgetting which this one was. It was a really big deal. It's
I
in
remember
Hawaii
hearing
every year.
about it when I was stationed over there, but
It's a big
what it
deal.
was called.
And so this guy and a bunch of other guys I know all went and did it. And he was at this mastermind I was in. He was talking about having 30 and 60-day benchmarks towards 90-day goals. That was the context to this. And he explained that when he was in the open water, that he had been coached that the water will kind of pull him all over the place. So, every couple strokes, instead of just breathing, he would have to turn and look and find the buoy. And that way he knew where that buoy was, and it kept him moving in the right direction. And after he hit the first buoy, it's like, okay, now I got to find the next buoy. And it's the same thing. Well, like these in-bodies are your buoys. Like they tell you, are you on the right track or are you on the right path or not? This gives you an opportunity to communicate with your coaches about any tweaks we might need to make to your program. It informs you on how well your efforts are actually paying off. And I just think the obstacle is the way. If you're scared of the scale, if you're scared of your body fat mass, like the way that you get through that is not by avoiding it. It's by going through it.
Yeah.
It's stepping into it. And again, this is not common these days, but I just really believe that your ability to attack the things you're afraid of builds resilience. And the more resilient you are, the easier you deal with little challenges, from ice storms to pizza parties to everything else in between.
The in-body, like again, that's super important that we get everybody on the in-body at this halfway point. This is a great opportunity to see what we're doing well, what we're not, to make some of those adjustments Andy was talking about.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, there's a lot of, because obviously not everyone is as informed with us about what all the in-body is and what all it is showing us. And a big common thing at this midway point is, again, expectations, reality. And one thing that we have really educated people on in the past is composition change versus weight loss.
Yeah.
I know a lot. I've heard a few people like, "Oh yeah, I'm down a couple pounds." I'm just like, I thought I'd be down more. I'm just like, well, let's get to the in-body and see.
Yep.
Because that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize. Just because the scale is not going down doesn't mean things aren't happening. Could be. Yeah, I'll let you go ahead.
Okay, so like expectations versus reality is where you started, and I think it's a good way to address that. Most people have absurd expectations when it comes to weight loss. They think they're supposed to lose as much weight as possible, as fast as possible. And what's even more absurd is if any of those people have ever had that experience before, they have almost certainly had the experience of gaining it all back. That's how it works when you, and this is not my opinion. There's a meta-analysis of studies on PubMed about this very topic, okay? So if you remember, I mentioned this. I said this isn't the biggest loser. You should be thinking about a half pound to 1 pound a week. A half pound to 1 pound a week. Now, we know all the data we've collected, the average person loses more than that.
Yeah.
But I want your expectation to be half pound to 1 pound a week, because again, that is the metric that shows you have sustainable fat loss.
Yes.
If you lose 1 pound a week for 52 weeks, you're down 52 pounds.
52 in a year.
But nobody wants to really do that.
Yeah,
They want to try to lose it in April so they can wear their favorite swimsuit in May.
Yeah.
And that's just not how body composition change happens, okay? If you lose a lot of weight really fast, you're often losing water, glycogen, and also muscle tissue. So now you've made yourself less physically resilient and less strong simply due to impatience or a lack of trust and belief in the program that you're involved in. But if you can't find me one expert in this space who will recommend losing weight as fast as humanly possible. Now, people do lose it at their own individual rate. They're like that half pound to 1 pound. Listen, for somebody that has 80 pounds to lose, that might be 3 to 4 pounds.
Yeah, everybody's a little
For somebody that has 10 pounds, that might be a quarter pound.
Yeah.
It just depends, and it also depends on how your metabolism has been conditioned. And we could do a whole nother podcast on metabolic adaptation, but nothing for nothing, they should put the person in prison that made women think that they should only eat 1,200 calories a day. So if the majority of your life you've kind of done crash diets in this 1,200 calorie zone and you're eating 1,500 now, your body just might not be recognizing that as a deficit. That doesn't mean that diet doesn't work. What that means is that your metabolism has not healed enough in a way to where 1,500 calories is a deficit.
Yeah.
And those are situations like me and Maddie can work with people more one-on-one on if they find themselves in that place, because that will require a period of time of reverse dieting. That will require a period of time of living at maintenance for a significant amount of time to bring that average back up. So then when they cut down, that 1,500 becomes like a true deficit that we can count on.
Yeah. Dig it. Because I know that's a big one that we touch on and talk with a lot, especially a lot of our new clients at that midway point. Then it kind of leads me to the next one. Say we got a handful of people come and do the in-body. They haven't had the greatest start. They didn't have the greatest in-body, so they start hitting the panic button.
Yeah.
And even if you're doing a pretty good job and you're not seeing the effects just yet, or on the in-body, I'll tell you, a lot of people in these challenges see a lot of results on the back end of the challenge.
100%.
So don't hit the panic button. Stay true to the process. Do what we're asking. All right? Don't hit the panic button. But let's make sure we get in the in-body so we can really dive into that stuff and own this back end of the challenge.
And I'll say this about panic button mentality. And we talk about this in the holidays, we called it fake stress. Everything that we do works for us in some way. That's just the way we are. Okay, it's the way humans are. So if I hit the panic button, what that does is it induces a little bit of scarcity, stress, and angst. I got to really get serious now. And people are used to using that as leverage to change. But it is an unproven and unsustainable tactic because you're literally driving more stress into your system. And when you understand that dieting is stress, training is stress, the management of all this is stress, adding another stressor into the equation is not conducive to long-term and sustainable results. I talk to a lot of people these days about feelings of anxiousness, and it almost always equates to people that kind of live in the extremes a bit. And again, that's not 100% true. I'm just talking in my experience. When you want to do things in extreme ways, that creates a little bit more anxiousness, inside of you. And so I would really encourage you to just have an honest moment of self-reflection. If you could dial in the 5 habits better, that's what you do if you're unhappy with your results. You don't hit the panic button. You dial things in more. You just follow the checklist, right? And if things are going great, don't feel the need to make things go faster.
Yeah.
You're down 3-4 pounds. You are winning right now. And if you do this well and you stick to this, on the back end of this, you're going to see some of this stuff will be sticky. It's going to stick. And then it's our goal and job to help you guys make this part of your life.
Dude. All right. Well, struggles to come. I know in the history of these challenges, week 3 through week 6 has been pretty tough for a list of reasons. So I wrote a few up. So I say we just dip through any of those specifically you want to jump into first.
Yeah. So generally weeks 3 through 6 go one of 2 ways. You absolutely crush it, and some people bail. I would highly discourage you from bailing and giving in. So that's the first thing. About 3 weeks in, it seems to be that some of the normal life stuff, right, seems to get in the way. Going to your kids' games, work events, travel for work, maybe you got sick, those type of things. They become a bigger deal. And we start rationalizing why we don't need to do what we committed to do. Well, let me assure you that if you continue to do everything that we ask you to do, you will actually be more resilient when it comes to being sick. You'll probably get over being sick faster. If you go back to the way you were doing things, you're probably going to extend it. If you're traveling for work, you should keep everything as the same as possible. Try to work out at the same time. Try to hit your meals at the same time. Doing recon with Whole Foods and other places that have the foods available that are on your meal plan. So this is where you double down, and when that thing happens and your brain starts going, I don't know if I need to, that is the very sign to tell you, okay, I'm negotiating with myself right now. I'm not going to negotiate. I'm going to do this. And you have choice at every moment. You have choice. So make the right choices. Make the ones that are congruent with the why and the reason why you started this challenge to begin with.
Yeah. The week 3 through 6, especially this year, this time of the year when we do these challenges. I mean, we're getting closer into spring, back into March and everything. So a lot of stuff tends to come up. So when in doubt, ask for help. Remember, you got Andy, you got 5 other coaches at your disposal. If you have questions, you are struggling with something, I can't echo that enough. Please reach out to somebody. We're here to help with that. And I know some other things, especially around this in-body time, some common quotes that really stuck with me that I wrote up there is some people kind of like we talked about the panic button. I already messed up. This isn't working for me. And I'm not going to win. So, well,
let's start in reverse. If you did this for money, you did it for the wrong reason.
Agreed.
We just hang the money out there because we know it's a powerful incentive for some people to put a little extra effort into it.
Yeah.
But if this was about winning to you, I'd have you consider that was setting you up for a tough experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you should reframe that. Because what winning really is being compliant to the 5 habits every day.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't won up until now, you have an opportunity to do so, weeks 3 through 6.
Yeah.
The idea that this isn't working, I would challenge you that maybe you aren't working it.
Yeah.
I'd flip that around a little bit because outside of some very specific situations where people might be dealing with metabolic adaptation, increasing your activity level, improving your nutrition, is undefeated when it comes to working.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't believe things are moving at the rate you want them to, remind yourself of the expectation versus reality conversation and the rate of fat loss that we believe you should be experiencing, as well as the importance of not focusing just on weight loss as a whole, because your ability to maintain and gain skeletal muscle mass will skew the one metric that everybody uses to quantify how well they're doing, and that's the number on the scale. And that is a very, very poor measure of results. Mm-hmm. I already messed this up. I mean, here's the deal. You haven't, but if somebody said, I already messed this up, my kind of blunt response to that will be, okay, well, stop doing that.
Yeah.
And that leads me, so I was going to do, I'll shoot the video anyway today probably, but so if you see this twice, that's okay, but I think it's important enough for you to hear this again. But the way that I would deal with this I already messed it up thing is there's this Albert Einstein quote that I like, and it's the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. We live in one of the smartest places in the whole country. I want to say there's some statistics, like there's more master's degrees here than anywhere else in the country, like per capita. Mm-hmm. But all of us often have blind spots when it comes to our emotional intelligence. Why we don't show up for workouts, why we oversleep, why we overeat, okay? But nonetheless, this quote is true. The measure of intelligence is the ability to change. And I heard an entrepreneur kind of frame it this way recently, and I thought it was worth sharing this. It'd be better if I had a visual right now, but hopefully people can follow along. Mm-hmm. So let's say me and you were sitting here right now, and I picked my phone up, and I had you look at my phone, mm-hmm. and I just smacked you. Whack! You might be like, whoa, dude, what was that all about? What's going on here, right? Now, outside of you probably reflexively tackling me and us getting into a fight, right. If there was a pause, right, and you didn't do anything different, I hold my phone up again, I smack you again. Whack! Okay, here's what I can bet.
I don't want to get smacked again.
The third time I hold this phone up, you're going to duck or you're going to punch me.
Yes.
One or the other. Mm-hmm. So your ability to change your behavior when you recognize there is a consequence associated with it is so important. And your ability to do that with the minimal amount of exposure is important, right? So I would suggest, in this case, if you keep missing your steps for some reason, you just aren't intellectualizing with that issue. You're not figuring out why you're doing that and creating a solution. And I'll be honest with you, again, it's back to what I said earlier, it's because that works for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't require you to do anything different than how you're currently doing them. But the question is, how's that really working for you, right? Is that really working, right? Is that fulfilling you? Is that feeding you? And so that your ability to close the gap on, stimulus and response in regards to change is very important. And there's another quote that I'm going to share with this that's by one of the smartest humans in the world. And it's this guy named Novel. And Novel is an absolute brilliant guy. The Almanac of Novel, it's Naval. I may be saying that wrong, Naval Novel. His last name is Ravikant. Is an incredible book. It is full of all things on finance, happiness, and other things. But he has a great quote, and I think it's very relevant to this challenge. A fit body, a calm mind, a house full of love. These things cannot be bought. They must be earned. And listen, signing up for a challenge is courageous. Participating in a challenge is courageous. But those things are just the cost of entry. Participating at the level of your potential, staying committed relative to the goal that you have, that's how you earn it. And if you earn it, you will be fitter. I would suggest your mind will probably be calmer too.
100%.
The love thing I can't help you with. Depends on how your parents raised you. But you might have to earn that too.
Yeah.
But I would suggest that, guys, we've made this challenge super simple. But simple ain't easy, right?
Yes.
So as I told you, I've said a million times, if nothing changes, nothing changes. This is the point in time where you do some self-reflection and you ask yourself, are my current efforts good enough? Because I promise you this works. I have no doubt about it.
You got to get real with yourself with those questions, because we're really bad as human beings of giving ourselves a little extra grace when we don't need to.
We're capable of infinite rationalization.
Yeah. So I think, and we've talked about it countless times, it seems to always come back to your ability to reflect, plan, and be aware of certain tendencies, because again, a lot of times you're not aware of some of these habits, but now all of a sudden we're throwing a lot of different things at your way that you're not used to doing. So we need to have constant reflection. Otherwise, you're just going to blindlessly go through this and kind of fall back into, this just isn't working.
Yeah.
You need to go back and really kind of be hard on yourself, or ask for guidance from other people and really get into what the true issue is.
Here's something else you can systemize. When you get the text from us every night, anything that you answer no on, immediately take 2 minutes and work on an implementation decision for tomorrow. How am I going to fix this tomorrow? So again, every night you're getting an opportunity to self-reflect. Don't just mindlessly check, right?
Yes. Don't hit
whatever
yes.
you didn't hit, it's okay, well, why?
Why didn't I hit
What
it?
can I do better?
Yeah.
Who do I need help from, right? We'll help you. It's our job. That's what we want to do. We want to see you win. We're invested in you winning.
Yeah, that's why we send out those weekly reflection questions and texts and posts and all that. We want you to constantly reflect so we can create that awareness.
Yeah.
So anything else on that?
Nope, I think that's it. I think that sets them up pretty good.
All right, so last couple things. We got a couple announcements. Maddie is rocking the Fat Loss Forever on... Let me pull up my calendar. I don't want to miss.
While he's doing that, for those of you that don't know, Fat Loss Forever is our community that we created for people that want to learn more about how to change their body composition. Maddie and I kind of kicked it off. It's going to be kind of Maddie's thing over time, and I'm gonna help with it still. But this is something she's really passionate about, and we want to give our clients and the people in your world an opportunity to learn more about this. So these are free seminars that we're doing. You can always invite a guest, a family member, a friend, your church, whoever you want to invite.
Whoever might find some value in it.
Yeah, just invite them, because it's a great opportunity for good dialogue on the truth about nutrition. So
So that is going to be on February 10th. And if you have not seen the post that Maddie put in the Facebook group asking questions about where to spend the majority of the time during that, please answer that, because again, we want to try to gear this towards the things that y'all want to hear about. Like there's certain things we want to educate you on, but if there's certain areas of common struggle, like that's a good opportunity to really dig into that.
Agreed.
And don't forget, at the end of the challenge, we have our closeout meal. All right, so that is going to be, we moved that back to March 9th, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And we're still working on the location right now. I've got 2 locations in mind, one in Madison and then the one that we used last year, which was downtown La Esquina. I'm just waiting on both people to get back to me to let me know if they can accommodate about 50 people, because I think that's about how many people
About the
we took there last year.
RSVPs.
And usually at that meeting is when we name the award winner, we present them with a check, and it's just another good opportunity for, community, just to hang out together, share a meal. Breaking bread together has been a thing since the beginning of time, and I think it's a great way to solidify the community that participated in this event.
All right, well, that being said, spend some time reflecting, and please, please, please ask for help if you need it. We are here. No question is a bad question. We are here for you. Please ask questions if you need help on anything.
That's right. Like, we're in your corner. We say it 100 times, and there's a reason why. Ask for help. We got you.
Aside from that, let's conquer the wheat.
Out.